Você está ouvindo. Oi, gente! Nós estamos aqui diretamente de Foz do Iguaçu com um dos nossos convidados para o Encontro Internacional NAUS, o Dr Hugues Gaillot.
That's it.
That's it. E nós vamos fazer algumas questões sobre carreira, sobre história, e aí a gente decidiu colocar ao vivo para vocês, ok? First of all, I want to thank you for accepting my invitation to answer these questions. It's a pleasure, it's an honor to having you here in Brazil, and your kindness to answer our questions at all. Well, the first question is, why did you choose veterinary medicine, and have you ever think to give up?
Okay. First, let's start with hello, everybody. This is my first test, actually. So I'm like a beginner. That's a real pleasure to me, to be here. This is my first time in Brazil and in South America. So thank you very much for inviting me. Definitely. So no reason for me to answer no to your question. So I'm really happy to answer this question. And the first one is, why? You said, why did I choose to become a vet?
Yeah.
Okay, as far as I can remember, because it was a little bit a long time ago,
No.
I think my first wish was to become a musician, because I was a piano player, classical music, France is a very classical country, and you go to conservatory, you learn a lot, you have to train a lot, and this is what I wanted to do, become a piano player, concertist. And my parents were pretty okay with that, but I have to recognize that probably I don't have been really brave, because it's a very, very hard way, to become a concertist. You need to train a lot, but it is not enough. You have to be really talentuous, and I didn't know if I was talentuous. So in the meantime, because I wasn't brave enough, I had to make another decision, and my parents had a horse. I was a horse rider. We had a lot of animals, and I really loved animals and nature. So this was my second option. But I never did a visitorship to a private practice. I had no idea what was the real position, role, and stuff of a veterinarian. But as I told you, I loved nature, animals, so I decided to do this job with no idea about what is it to be a vet.
And after that, have you ever
Yes.
to give up?
You said the second part of your question.
Yeah.
Interesting, but actually the answer is yes. And I really remember what particular time it was. It was at the last third of my vet study. Because as I told you, I never went to a private practice, And in France at that time, the vet study lasted 5 years. And the first time I entered a veterinary practice it was in my 4th year,
As here in Brazil.
Yes, and I have to recognize that probably I don't have been very lucky, because what I saw really, really made me upset. It was so special. I mean, what I've seen during this time, I worked there as a technician, It was during my summertime vacation, and the practitioner I met was someone so special, but I didn't know that he was so special. I mean, what he did, it has something like maybe 10 consultations a day, and each consultation was the same. 15 minutes divided in 3 parts. it was like, you know, a theater play, very organized. And I had no feeling about his concern about animals, his concern about people. I mean, each consultation was the same, absolutely, you know? And I was so afraid of that. And I was thinking, if this is going to be my life, I don't want it. So my plan was actually to complete my veterinary study and then to find another plan.
Yes. And it was the first, or it's
Yes.
the
The first one.
Oh,
He was the
one.
first vet I met.
Uh-huh.
And I really remember that I talked about this really dark experience with my parents. And I had an externship to do during the last year in a private practice. And a friend of them, of my parents, was a human doctor. And a very good friend of him was a veterinarian working in a private practice. And thanks to him, this guy told me, you have to go there for your externship. And the man I met there was the total opposite of the first one, you know?
Look
So it
at
was,
you.
yes, definitely. And this guy gave me the, you know, the wish to become a vet, definitely. I've been lucky.
Great, great. Well, and what would you tell to who's thinking about to give up?
Sorry, could you repeat your question?
What would you tell?
Oh, okay. To people who may have such experience.
And thinking to give up.
I think that probably the first question maybe one should ask to ourselves is, what is the major reason I want to give up? I mean, sometimes you may have made the wrong choice. It can happen. And it's okay to say, okay, I have to recognize that this is not my way. But sometimes maybe it is some external factor, you know, that you cannot control. So if it's the case, I think that never stay on your own. You have to meet the right people, so you have to seek for them, and you have to follow people that are good for you.
Great advice.
This is my experience, actually. So, you know.
Well, how do you think that you become really good at your work, and what do you think that made the difference in your career?
Okay. I do not know if I'm really good.
No,
E pausou. Oh.
I have to say that I trust myself. I think it's because, and this is something that the second vet I was talking about taught me. I learned to be able to say, I don't know. And this definitely made me feeling definitely better. Because, I mean, I think that when I was beginning, probably, yes, I thought, okay, I have to know everything, I have to be strong, I have to be, you know, and it's not possible. It is not possible.
for anyone.
And I am quite sure that at my own hospital, each day, at least once, maybe to an owner or to some of my colleagues, I say, I don't know.
To something.
But it doesn't hurt me, because I am now quite convinced that it's absolutely normal. The only thing is, if you don't know, you have to figure out how you can get the answer, maybe by reading, by sharing something with people. And this is probably the most exciting part of our job. We are doing a job that is, and there is so many things that have been discovered, but there are also so many things that we don't know, and anyone knows. But sometimes we can find the means to either find the answer or just go a little bit further, you know? So probably I think that's what made me better is be able to say these things I do know that you can trust me, but this I don't. But let's see if I can get the answer or part of the answer.
Yes, yes. Great, great. Let me see. Okay, tell me, have you ever had a moment in your work that you felt insecure? I mean, with a patient, with during a scanning an organ or a case, or during the report. Have you ever?
I would say a lot of times, definitely, a lot of times.
Great, you're human.
Yes, I am. And you know that the point is that I'm still sometimes uncomfortable with some cases or some situations. I don't control everything. But once more, the big difference, I think, between me now and the guy I was maybe 10 or 15 years ago is that now I am able to say, okay, I don't know that. Let's figure out
Yeah.
what is the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Just be able to recognize that, yes, as you said, you're just human. Okay, there is some good things that you know, and there is something that you don't know.
Yeah. And it's part of our job.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's good to hear this.
And I think that without that, you know, I guess that probably I would feel our job pretty boring, you know. Can you imagine? I mean, if we knew everything,
Oh,
how boring it could be.
of course. Yeah. But you never know everything because
Absolutely.
when your patient comes, you don't know what is happening inside,
Absolutely.
and the play is just this.
Absolutely.
Let's figure it out.
But sometimes, I mean, and it's the same for everybody. Sometimes, for example, we are talking about ultrasound. You're receiving a patient, you're doing an ultrasound, and okay, everything you discovered, you're okay with that. You have an idea what is going on, and you have, okay, you know that you're doing a pretty good job. This patient, the day after, I'm sure, I will have completely forget this patient. The case, I mean, not the patient, but the case.
Mm-hmm.
Another one comes and you have to do the abdominal ultrasound, and there is some tricky part of this exam you don't understand. This one I will never forget it. Never. And this is this one who is interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a kind of challenge,
Absolutely.
and that's the reason that makes you move it on
Absolutely.
and keep going. That's the next question,
Oh,
in fact.
sorry.
Yeah. What is your motivation to keep going?
You gave the answer. Challenge. Definitely challenge.
Mhm. And what is or was your motivation to research?
Okay. Let me give you an example. I remember one particular case. It was a cat that has jaundice. And at that time, I was working as a mobile ultrasonographer, you know.
You used to?
Yes, a long
Oh.
time ago. It was, I don't know, 20 years ago, you know.
No, it's not at
Not a
all.
long time,
Oh,
okay.
no.
And
Not for me.
yeah, and I remember this examination, you know, and I found some findings that I couldn't really interpret. I had an idea about, you know, I didn't know if it was the right one. I was thinking about something obstructing the common bile duct. And I remember I gave my cell phone after the exam, and I called a friend of mine who is a radiologist who was radiologist, board certified at that time, and I wasn't. And I asked her, okay, what do you think? This is the findings I got on this case, and maybe there is something that is obstructing this duct, but what do you think? And she said, oh, no, it's not the case. Probably it's inflammatory disease. And I said, okay, but actually I recommended to send the cat to surgery. And she said, no, it's not a good idea. This cat should receive drugs and okay. So I called back the vet and I said, okay, let's tell me the opinion of a specialist. And she said that probably it's not obstructed, so you shouldn't go to surgery. And the guy said, okay, let's give some drug to the cat. And 2 weeks later, I ultrasounded the cat. I had the same findings. And I said, my opinion, I would say that maybe this cat is obstructed, but I am not a specialist. And finally, I called another colleague who is also a specialist. And this one said, we don't know. Nothing has been published on this problem, on this topic. And this person told me, you should do something about that. And this is the beginning of my residency. And my clinical research was on this topic because of this question. And finally, the cat was sent to surgery, and there were an obstructed problem. But whatever, the deal is not who was right and was wrong. But it's not, at this time, we had no clue about what are the findings of a mechanical obstruction of the common bile duct in cats. We had no clue.
And you decided because
Absolutely. I don't know if we will get the answer, but we have to try to do this.
Yeah, and you had
It was really exciting moment.
to know
Yes.
that
Yes.
you're moving.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, we are getting close to our ending. So, could you leave messages to the beginners?
Oh.
They are listening to
Beginners.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Okay.
beginners.
Wow. First of all, if you are a beginner, it means that you want to learn. So this is the first really good point, I think. And we are quite lucky, as a veterinarian, because we can learn during our entire life. And that makes me wake up in the morning. So I wish you the best. And the only thing I will add is be honest. Be honest with yourself, and everything will be just perfect.
Great. Thank you.
No, thank you.
I'm so grateful for you answer our questions, and you accepted my invitation to be
But my
here in
pleasure.
Brazil. And I'm sure that your answers inspired some people.
If it's the case, it will make me happy.
Thank you. Bye bye. Tchau,
Bye-bye.
gente.